If you look at the evolution process of a lot of emerging market economies or frontier economies, the privatization process has always been a catalyst towards further economic development and increased growth. And so in that same context, this privatization process is equally important for Kazakhstan. So the benefits of privatization are multifold. We look at it from the perspective of the asset and then the economy. So in terms of the asset that is being privatized, it will allow for maximum utilization. It will allow for a greater economies of scale. It will allow for a longer life of the asset itself through the strategic technology and innovation and know-how that will be introduced by a strategic partner. And it also allows for better service delivery and standards for the people or the consumers who are using the asset itself. On the flip side is also the benefit to the economy as a whole. By making our companies more competitive, we are actually increasing the economic multiplier effect in terms of jobs, in terms of income, in terms of wages, in terms of strategic innovation. And so when you look at it on a holistic perspective, this actually leads to far more economic development. Through the privatization process, it will help us to unlock strategic value. This means that we will now be able to attract new investments, attract new technologies. It will allow our companies experiences of being professionally managed by having external investors. And so what it does is it unlocks value for us as shareholders. It provides more optimum resources for our portfolio companies. And it also leads to further enhancements in growth in terms of revenue, as well as in the value creation of the company itself. I think if you look at the privatization process that was undertaken by emerging market economies in Asia or in the Middle East, or even in countries like Spain and Italy, there are always challenges in any privatization exercise. It's either a socio-economic challenge, or in this context, it could actually be a challenge from external market sources, for instance, where global economies is or where global commodity prices are. So there are always challenges in privatization. What is important is how we prepare our companies for the process of privatization. Now, we have already engaged external advisors in the form of BCG. We already have a fully staffed, fully functioning privatization office. We are now taking our companies through a privatization planning process, and we are introducing strategic value through the transformation process. And so ultimately, this will create enterprise value for our portfolio companies. So we are doing everything that we can to minimize any risks to the privatization from a company perspective. But then there are also risks that are externally driven that we are unable to control, and that includes the global economic environment, global commodity prices, But nevertheless, given how we are preparing our companies, I think that we will be able to embark on a successful privatization process. The economist in me will tell you that it is always a good time to reform our companies and our businesses and our enterprises. There is never a bad time to introduce professional management or strategic value, or to look at optimization of resources, and that's what the privatization process brings. Nevertheless, given our 7 largest national companies, for instance, the plan to take them public only occurs from 2018 onwards. And so by then, our research shows that commodity prices would already see a tangible recovery. There will be a strong, sustained momentum in the global economic environment, and it will be a good time for investors to continue to invest in emerging markets. So if you look at how we are managing the privatization process in terms of the externalities surrounding markets and the dynamics of economies, I think that the planned process will actually be quite optimistic for privatization process as a whole. Firstly, these represent some of the largest national resource companies in Central Asia. And I think that is an exciting opportunity for investors. Secondly, investors are now will have the opportunity to invest in our companies, which were largely state-owned prior to this. There are not many economies in Central Asia or in emerging markets that have not been through a privatization process. And so the ability for investors to capture value at an early stage and to be strategic investors with us to unlock that value throughout our economic process is, I think, a very exciting proposition.